Is thinking about death a good thing?
We must face the moment of truth, baby.
Come on, let's get into it here at 180 Truth. Family, welcome back to 180 Truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
I'm your brother, Minister Honorio Chaparro, and I want to talk about this issue. Is thinking about death a good thing, a morbid thing? How often do you think about death? Well, please hit like, subscribe, leave a comment because all those things help my channel. And guess what? I want to add value to your life with truth that'll set you free. Free to be who God's called you to be, free indeed. Family, please also, why don't you share this video and hit that notification bell as well so we can stay in touch when I do post so that I can add value to your life. But I want to get into what Keanu Reeves had to say about this a couple of months back. Maybe you heard his interview with the BBC alongside his co-author. I believe the gentleman's name is China Melville. I could be wrong, butchering that name. Forgive me. But I want to get into what he had to say about thinking about death. But first, let's stop with a just brief look at what the scriptures have to say about thinking about death. I've officiated a lot of funerals, and thanks to the great Reverend Elder William Pointer, I know that this is one of the scriptures that I often share at funerals, because I think it really puts things into perspective, because we oftentimes spend a lot of time in the world, in our lives, even Christians, self-medicating to avoid thinking about death. It's one of the reasons why we don't go ahead and complete a will. We don't do our trusts for our families. We don't set things in motion. We try everything to not think about death until we're confronted with the death of a loved one or some tragic loss. That being said, death shows up in our life quite often in all kinds of ways. We see it on the news. We can become desensitized to it. But the scriptures share this. A good reputation, this is from the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 7. The book of Ecclesiastes chapter 7. A good reputation is more valuable than costly perfume. And the day you die is better than the day you are born. Now, in a moment, we're going to listen to what Keanu Reeves has to say about thinking about death. And what's interesting is that Keanu Reeves, you may know him as an actor, Matrix, Speed, the John Wick series of movies, all kinds of stuff he's done. And he has an interesting reputation as a gentleman and someone who's extremely generous and finding ways even from the stage to make his audience feel like he cares about them, loves them. Fascinating. Whatever else you might believe, because I know a lot of us have a lens of suspicion when it comes to celebrities, and I understand that. But that being said, that is his reputation. That's his reputation right now. What is your reputation right now? Better to spend, verse 2, your time at funerals than at parties. After all, everyone dies, so the living should take this to heart. Now, that is interesting. Why is it better to spend your time at funerals than at parties? Well, because at parties you're celebrating an occasion, or even, let's say, a birthday. When a child is born, you're hoping and wishing for the very best. But you don't know if that child is going to become someone that really makes you proud, or whether that's going to be someone that gives you grief. But at the funeral, you get to look back over a person's life and see what they did with it and gather from that lessons to take with you. Gather from that inspiration for how you want to be remembered, for the legacy and the name you're going to leave behind. It's a reminder as well that we're meant to live this life well, and probably the most important thing we can do, and I'm not sure if it was Warren Buffett who said it, but a successful person is a person who at the end of their life, the people they want loving them, love them. Let's continue. Verse 3, sorrow is better than laughter, for sadness has a refining influence on us. Now, we live in a world where we're always concerned about people going into depression. But how is it that sadness can have a refining influence on us? How is it that sorrow can be better than laughter? When we come to the place where we break with our illusions, where we break with our expectations, where we break with our agenda, where we break with especially the illusion of being in control of the universe, when the reality of it is the only thing we really can control is how we respond to life. We can be refined through that kind of sadness. Verse 4, a wise person thinks a lot about death, while a fool thinks only about having a good time. Listen to that. A wise person thinks a lot about death, while a fool thinks only about having a good time. Back in the day, they called it YOLO. You only live once. And everyone's looking for an upgrade. Everyone's looking for the next best thing. But a wise person thinks a lot about death. There's a line in Hamilton, I think about death so much it feels like a memory. And I will say maybe it was because my father was significantly older than my mom, and a lot of people thought he was like my grandfather. But I thought about his death. I thought about death a lot. Growing up in Brooklyn, New York, you think about death a lot. So you think about what really matters in this life. You think about how you want to be remembered. You think about whether or not what you're doing is worth your time, your talent, your treasure. You think about the meaning of life, and is it truly meaningful? The old philosophers would point to what's good, what's true, what's beautiful. Life, what it means to be a wise person. See, you don't want to think about death a lot so it's morbid, so it terrifies you, but rather that it humbles you and motivates you to live well. Let's listen to what Keanu Reeves has to say about thinking about death.
I'm 59, so I'm thinking about death all the time.
Still very young.
I'm young old. I mean, I think thinking about death is good. Hopefully it sensitizes to an appreciation of the breath we have and the relationships that we have the potential to have.
That's great. The breath we have and the relationships, the potential relationships, so it's both what we have and what might be. Love that. And, she tries to qualify it. You're young, you're still young, so you don't have to think about death. And I actually think the scriptures warn us, and I think a lot of other philosophers in culture and history would warn us, no. When you're young, one of the mistakes you can make is not thinking well about your life. Love what Keanu Reeves had to say about thinking a lot about death. He takes it as a positive, and I know that Keanu has been through a lot in his life. That being said, let's listen to what his co-author of the book that he was releasing, has to say about this as well.
I'm 51 and consider death something to be ruminated on with great respect. I think that one of the things, hopefully you can have it both ways. You can have a book that has these kind of, fun, explosive sequences, but you can also quite seriously sort of talk about death and what that means to be human.
Wow, what that means to be human.
Now you know the truth.
And so, family, there is a healthy way to think about death. The scriptures testify to it. Keanu Reeves, his co-author, there's a way to do that. There's a way to also then, and what he says about his book, about myth and story, it's so important for us to have the right perspective on life and death. It all has to do with the story that we believe. As Christians, we believe in the story of Jesus Christ. That is the central story of our life. And because of Jesus, death does not have the final word. But when we think about death in the light of God giving us the gift of life and the gift of redemption, we can also, as Keanu Reeves says, be good stewards over the breath that we have and over the relationships we've been given. Again, I don't know what Keanu Reeves or even his co-authors' religion is, their spirituality or anything like that, but what he said resonated with me. I believe resonated with scripture, and I hope resonates with you. Because, as Socrates said, an unexamined life is not worth living. Examine your life, because death is the destiny of each and every one of us. Tomorrow is not promised to no one. So make your breath and your relationships count for time and for eternity. Thank you for being here, 180 Truth. Please hit like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let me know what you think in the comments. Share this video, and family, help me to add value to your life. I look forward to continue to do so, sharing truth to set you free. Grace and peace. God bless.